guy is going to go on a date with a girl thinking about, how close can I get to killing her? You don't ask the question. But when I was in high school, I went to a Catholic high school, this is the question we had about girls in religion class. We'd be like, well, how far can you go with the girl? Can we do this with her? Can we do that with her? Our school would give us these sex talks, right? Where someone gets up there and they'd be like, sex is bad, sex is dirty, you're going to die. And it was shame, it was guilt. All they try to do is scare you, and it was useless. So we'd walk out of these talks thinking like, what? All God cares is making sure I don't go too far with a girl. But to prove to you, God's got a bigger plan. I was in Boston, met a guy named Kevin. Fell in love with a girl, they decided to get married. They go to church getting ready for the wedding. The priest is going through their paperwork. He said, hey, look at that. You guys got baptized in the same church when you were babies. They're like, oh, that's cool, we didn't know that. He looked closer. He said, yeah, you guys got baptized on the same day in the same church as babies. They went to their parents' photo album, sure enough, found a picture. The two babies getting baptized together years before they'd ever meet again. So you never know what God's up to. You might be sitting right next to your future spouse right now, huh? Yeah. Well, not everybody. Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah. One spouse per person. Now, I didn't think God had like some big plan for my love life. So the relationships I got in reflected that. And look, I know with relationships, most of you right now are not in one. Like most of you right now do not have a boyfriend, do not have a girlfriend. Good for you. Don't be like me. I started dating in grade 7. One girl back then actually broke up with me because I forgot that I was dating her. I was like, whoa, I know, it was like high maintenance, but you're under this pressure like, you don't have a boyfriend? You don't have a girlfriend? You've never kissed anyone before? What's wrong with you? It's grade 3. What are you waiting for? And it's ridiculous. I was in Michigan. This grade 7 student came up. He's like, Jason, I got a relationship problem. Can you help? I said, what's going on? He said, look, I dated a girl for 3 years. It's pretty serious. And then I took a year off. Now I like a girl she's friends with, so I don't know what to do. I'm like, wait a minute. This guy's 12. Okay. He just took a year off a 3-year relationship, meaning the guy was 8 years old in a relationship. I'm like, what are you guys doing on dates together? Watching Bluey? I mean, you have time, but you're under all this pressure to get in the relationship. Then there's the pressure to go further and further. And I remember feeling that pressure in high school. I was a girl. Came to the point, I had to ask myself, okay, well, should I give this girl my virginity? And I thought, well, I've already known her. I've already known her for 3 days. And I could hear this voice in me that said, Jason, this gift is not for her. It's for me. Please wait for me. And we cool things down, is able to hold on to my virginity. And for people of virgins, I say, good for you. I've got right here what's considered to be the most comprehensive sex research ever done. It's about 700 pages. And what they found on page 503 is that people who get married as virgins have a divorce rate that's about 70% lower than those who won't wait for marriage. Now, some people think, well, that's great, but look, I'm not a virgin, or I had my virginity taken from me. Does that mean I'll have a messed up marriage? If you're like me, you're so sick of all the divorce. We were at high school in Washington. After the talk, a year 11 student came up. He said, Jason, I know what you mean about divorce. He said, Jason, my dad is on his 9th marriage. Boy was 16. He's watched his dad get 8 divorces. Nobody in here wants to get a divorce, but how are you going to stop it? I'll suggest one thing. If you hope to get married, that means you hope to promise somebody, I'm going to love you and honor you all the days of my life. Okay, today is a day of your life. Are you willing to love and honor that person before you meet him? And what I mean is this. Biggest question I always get, how far can you go? Easy way to answer. We're at a high school in Chicago, all boys high school, 800 boys. After the talk, guy raised his hand. He said, okay, Jason, your talk was fun, but can we get specific? I said, sure. He said, I want to know exactly how far I can go with my girlfriend. I said, that's a fair question. What do you want to do with her? And he was like, and I'm like, okay. And I said, look, we're not in grade 3. We can be mature, specific. What do you want to do? And he's like, cool. Can we do this and this? And he went through a whole list of sexual things. I said, that's charming. Slow down. Pick one. And he's thinking about it. He said, okay. I said, look, I'm going to have you answer your own question. Do you want to get married one day? He said, yeah, I'm going to get married. I said, now, if you're going to get married, that means your future wife, she's out there somewhere right now, isn't she? For the first time ever, he thought about his future bride. And he said, yeah, she is out there. Cool. I go, but let's say she doesn't live here in Chicago. Let's say she's wrong from at the time. California, school's getting out right now. She's coming home from class with her boyfriend, who's a guy you're never going to meet. And he's got his arm around your future wife. And he's saying, baby girl, I love you so much. Your eyes are so beautiful. You're amazing just the way you are. And she's like, oh, you're so sweet. And he walks her home and Sits her on the couch. He's like, hey, baby girl, you feeling fine? Because you looking fine. Mm-hmm. You know, she's like, stop. And I said to the guy, I was like, man, I'm like, you know what's going on that couch with Mr. Riz. You know what's going on right there. And he's like, I know. I'm like, that guy is trying to emotionally manipulate your future wife into doing some sexual thing with him, trying to make her think that if she gives him that, he'll like her more when he's just using her more. I go, does that bug you? And he's like, I don't know. I'm like, you don't know. That guy doing that with your future bride doesn't bother you? He's like, well, I don't know. The guy next to him in class is like, oh, I'd be ticked off. And he smacked him in the head, and I broke him up. I said, look, if you don't want somebody else doing that with the person you're going to marry, set the same standards on yourself. And this is not some condemnation of any of us. It's a calling to real love. I'm not going to stand in front of the guys in here today and be like, you guys have to be like me. That's a joke. You're a guy. I'm a guy. We're the same. Every guy in here has this temptation to lust and use, but a deeper desire to sacrifice and love. There's tension going on. What I want you girls to realize, the guys you're sometimes sitting next to in school, all of us have been lied to about what it means to be a man. Like, we're supposed to learn about manhood from our dads. But girls, think about it. Some of us haven't even seen our dads since we were 3. Even if you have a great dad, you still get lied to about manhood everywhere else, being told, you want to be a man today? You got to get some of the ladies. If you get some of the girls, you're the man. Everything's about sex. Basic message is if you're still a virgin, something's wrong with you. But then if you're not a virgin, it's too late for you. This is all you ever hear. And it gets old because even guys want love, but we just get lost trying to find it. But God offers it. In the Bible, there's one passage guys have to know to love women. Ephesians 5. St. Paul says to the guys, husbands, love your wife like Christ loved the church, giving himself up for her to make her holy. To do this, the Gospel of Luke said Jesus was praying in the agony in the garden. It said his sweat became like drops of blood and fell on the ground. I know some of you will become doctors, you'll learn about this. It's called hematidrosis, which means under extreme stress, capillaries in the skin can rise up, come in contact with sweat glands that burst, and you bleed from the pores of your skin. Your whole body becomes a bleeding bruise, and they'd scourge them on it, meaning they strip you naked, wrap your arms around a pillar so the back's exposed, come up them with whips. At the end of the whips are fishing hooks, fishing weights, pieces of glass and metal. They torture him when he's almost dead, beat the crown of thorns into his head, carries the cross about 600 yards, strip him naked, pierce him probably through the wrists, and for hours he hangs there to give himself up for his bride, the church, us. And then St. Paul says, you guys want to get married? Be ready to love a woman just like that. And guys hear that. It's like, okay, crucify myself for a girl. How do you do that? I think it begins by not sacrificing girls for the sake of ourselves, which is what I picked up in high school because the influence for me back then of the pornography. And I think porn is the best way to shoot your future marriage in the head. Teaching me, you girls are things to be used. I want to get bored of you, I'll go to the next fantasy. Now, high school, we'd laugh it off. We'd be like, I'm not getting on pregnant. We're just appreciating women. We'd laugh it off. Porn was everywhere. Buddies had it, friends had it. First porn I ever saw, I was in grade 2. I mean, we're riding our bikes in the neighborhood, found some dirty magazine in the street. I'm like, what's that? I'm like, oh, nice to meet you. Like, what do we do with it? My friend said, let's keep it. I'm like, yeah, where do we put it? He said, let's put it at your house. I said, that's a good idea. So ride the bike to the house. When we get there, I'm like, I'm not putting it inside. I'm not getting busted. I'd never seen porn before, but I knew something was wrong. So I said, I know what to do. So we ripped out all our favorite pictures, crumpled them up in little balls, and we shoved them into bushes in front of the house so we'd come outside and look at them when we wanted. Problem is, my dad trimmed the hedges Saturday afternoon, found porn growing on the plants out front, so we got busted by the porn plant, but then we got back into it. My high school, it was everywhere. One guy in my high school actually passed out porn from his locker to anyone who would vote for him as senior class vice president. He's in the hallway, vote for Travis, vote for Travis. Like, I don't know where he is today. He's probably in Congress by now, but we would just laugh it off. And I know right now, there's guys in the audience, and you're thinking, whatever, I got some stuff on my phone. I'm not addicted. No one's getting hurt. And when a guy desperately tries convincing himself that porn is not a problem, the boy gets emasculated. Emasculation means that a young man is robbed of the ability to be masculine. You look at a crucifix, it's masculinity. Lover empties himself for the beloved. Porn flips it backwards. So guys learn to empty ladies for the sake of ourselves. We miss the point why God made us men. And we didn't even know what we're looking at in the porn. Because when you're looking at porn, you're not looking at some naked body. You're looking at somebody's daughter who could have been sexually abused as a little girl, but we just laugh it off, call ourselves gentlemen for enjoying this? Some of the girls in porn aren't even alive. Porn stars have a huge mortality rate. Death by drug overdose, murder, suicide. I mean, you could be lusting after a girl who's in her grave right now. Some of the girls aren't even human beings. With AI, they can just completely computer generate them from head to toe. But what scientists found is that if a guy gets hooked on years of internet porn, it'll actually sculpt the structure of your brain to expect every woman to live up to this fantasy of a disposable supermodel. And where does it leave a wife one day? I mean, you think about it. Today, in one afternoon of looking at porn, a guy could see more perfect women's bodies than any man in history could have ever seen in hundreds of lifetimes. And you get it all one afternoon with no effort, commitment, he's back the next day, back the next week. You do that for a couple of years, and then you jump into marriage, think you're gonna be captivated by one till death do you part. It doesn't happen. My buddy in college had all this porn, and he figured, oh, I'll throw it away before I get married. I went to his wedding, beautiful wedding, divorced in 3 months. All he did was take all that lust he had for porn, look at his bride that way, marriage is over as soon as it started. One high school girl said to me, she said, Jason, I found out my dad looks at porn. She said, I used to look up to him. Now I can't even look at him. I thought he was a better man than that. She's like, Jason, my dad is lusting after girls who are 2 years older than I am while my mom's sleeping in the next room. And then he erases internet history, thinks we don't know, kisses my mom and goes to work the next day. She said, it makes me sick how much I resent that guy. Every guy in this gym knows right now that is not the husband I want to be. That's the father I want to be. I'm not going to be some 30-year-old porn-addicted dad who's got to slap his laptop shut. My 5-year-old girl comes around because she can't see what dad's seeing. It's not the father I want to be. That's why if you trash the porn tonight, you are being faithful to your brides before you ever lay eyes upon her. Because what are we training ourselves for? It's like when I was in college, I played 3 years of college baseball. And one day I'm in a game, and the coach yells at me. I was like, Evert, come in. I run the dugout. I'm like, what's going on? You pull me out of the game? He's like, no, I want you to pitch. I'm like, I don't pitch. He said, no, I saw you in batting practice. You got an arm, I just need you a couple innings. I'm like, coach, I don't know, I'm gonna look like an idiot. He's like, you're gonna do great. And I get out there, I'm like, what am I gonna do? I mean, I'm nervous. Crowd's there, batter digs in, catcher squats down, and he starts giving me all these signs. If you ever watch baseball, he'll be like, throw a fastball. If you agree that's the right pitch, you throw it. But if you disagree, you shake your head, he'll suggest something else. Do you want to throw a sweeper, curveball, knuckleball, forkball? What do you want? My problem is I don't have a good fastball. I don't have a reliable curveball. I don't have a knuckleball. Like, I have a baseball. That's what I have. So I'm like, what am I going to do? I said, I know. I'm going to play mental games with the batter. So the batter digs in, catcher squats down. He's like, 1. I'm like, no. He's like, 2. I'm like, not number 2. 3, no. 4, no. 5, no. Then he starts laughing at me. He's like running out of fingers at this point. He gets to number 7. I'm like, oh yeah, number 7, whatever that is. And the batter's like, how many pitches does he have? I threw the first pitch. I hit the guy with the first pitch. I hit the batter. But the moral of the story being is if you train yourself for years, lust, and the day comes to love a woman, you can't fake it because all you know how to do is take your own pleasure. And unfortunately, there's a huge myth right now that porn is a guy problem. Girls? No, girls would never look at that. Girls struggle with modesty and emotional issues, but never porn. That's not true. I know a girl who struggled with porn for years. She said, you know when you're a guy who looks at porn? She said, they all know they're into it. It's like they're in this big prison together. Oh, we're all stuck in porn. One day we'll get out of here. But she said, when you're the girl who looks at it, she said, yeah, it feels like prison, but it's kind of like solitary confinement because you think you're the only girl there. But the fact is, lust isn't some guy problem. It's a human problem. I don't know if you saw Billie Eilish. She was on this Howard Stern podcast in the States. Middle of the interview, Billie Eilish, out of nowhere, just brings up she first got exposed to porn when she was an 11-year-old girl. And I wrote down what she said. This is Billie Eilish. She said, the porn, I think it really destroyed my brain. I feel incredibly devastated that I was exposed to so much porn. I got nightmares, sleep paralysis, night terrors from it. And then she said I started dating guys. And she said I was not saying no to the things I should have said no to. But I thought that that's what I was supposed to be attracted to. I'm just so angry that porn is so loved. And I'm so angry at myself for thinking that it was okay. But like her, a lot of girls start looking out of curiosity. What do I need to look like? What do I need to wear? What do I need to do? But like women, you were never created to be porn. You're created to be loved. And if we can get rid of that junk, we can be free to love. And I don't think you boys are the problem. Don't get me wrong. I think teenage boys are the solution to the problem. I got research back me up. You ever wonder how many high school students having sex? I'm like, everybody's doing it. Here's the numbers of what's going on right now. They've studied this for the last 30 years, and they found the sexual activity of high school students in the last 30 years, the rates of sexual activity have been constantly going down. Last year is the lowest they've ever recorded so far. 20% of high school students are currently sexually active. 30% have ever had sex, meaning most high school students are virgins. And this came out 15 years of research. High school boys' sexual activity is now going down twice as fast as the girls. And people hear that and they're like, what? That can't be true. That wasn't on Snapchat. Are you sure that's a reliable source you have? But the change is going on, but you don't hear about it because nobody talks about it. One guy came up to me, he's like, hey, can we talk? All right, what's going on? He's like, can we talk over there? I'm like, yeah, sure, we go over here. He's like, can we go in the corner? I'm like, all right. We're in this dark little corner, and I'm like, what's going on with you? He said, I'm a virgin. And I'm like, I thought you were going to tell me you had leprosy. I mean, this is a good thing. More people are choosing it. People starting over. In fact, they found 2 out of 3 high school students who have had sex privately admit they wish they waited longer. It was kind of a disappointment. There's a change that's going on. It's happened to girls. This came out a while ago. Vogue magazine says on the cover, naughty versus nice, why showing skin is no longer in. It's a big fashion article showing how modesty is making a comeback. And I'll admit, as a guy, I don't know the pressure you girls are under to look perfect, to eat perfect. My wife was at a toy store. She saw a Barbie doll they came out with, and she was like, oh, I have to show that to Jason. So she bought me a Barbie doll. And it's for work. But this is what they're giving these little girls to play with. Let me find this thing. Okay, here it is. This is what they're giving these little girls to play with now. Dude, she got fishnet stockings, short skirt, strapless top. I don't even girls call these tops, like a napkin top for you or something. And people complained about it, like Barbie's too skinny, it's not realistic. So you know what the toy company did? They just went and made her skinnier. So this is what they're giving little girls to play with now. I mean, look at this thing. This is wrong. Like, look, I'm not some dietitian, but I know something's missing from your diet if your arms come off like that, okay? And girls, you've been told since you've been wearing diapers, behold womanhood. You know, you too can be a woman, okay? So for dinner, you can have a grain of rice. For dessert, maybe the ice cubes, but not too many, go to your hips. But as long as you girls would just look like this, man, you're gonna be loved. And you know it's a joke. You understand it's fake, but like, you don't understand, like, dude, it's all fake. Like Cindy Crawford is a big swimsuit model. Revlon makeup thought she was too fat for them. So the computers that made her arms skinny in their advertisements. Like real womanhood isn't shown to you. What's shown to you is beer commercials telling your body, it's disgusting. Hate your body, hate yourself. And a girl's desire just to look pretty. You look at some magazine, you think, well, if I look like her, I'm sure I'd be loved too. But girls, think about it. The women in the world who have the most perfect bodies, do they have the most perfect relationships? No, they often have the most messed up ones. Think of the people you know who have the most perfect love. Do they have perfect bodies? No, they're like 80 years old, overweight and wrinkly, but they have love because the perfect body doesn't get you perfect love. But you see the image and you think, but if I look like that, I'd be loved. And it sounds like it makes sense, but what happens is, girls, look, we love you, but we're different than you when it comes to sexuality. We get seduced differently. I think a lot of girls today are getting seduced through their ears like a boy gets seduced through his eyes. Girls often get seduced by what they hear a boy telling them. Oh, baby, I've never felt this way about a girl before. Oh, really? Like, that doesn't work with the boys. Boys different. They get seduced through the eyes. Perfect example. I'm eating dinner at a restaurant in Chicago. I walk in the guy's bathroom. As soon as I walk in, it's a huge photograph. 5 women's sexy legs. First thing I thought was, yeah, I wonder if I go in the girls' bathroom, kind of peek in the ladies' room, is there going to be like a massive photo of 5 men's bare legs in the women's bathroom? Probably not. In fact, I think just for fun, we should get some of the guys together after the talk today. Let's get a big photo of your hairy legs. Let's stick it in the girls' bathroom out there. And what would happen when girls walk in? They'd be like, bah, or they'd vomit. But why? I mean, aren't the guys cute? They are, but it's different. And if a girl doesn't understand the differences, you watch what happens. She starts hiking up that skirt, showing off a little belly button. Dude, she thinks her outfit's cute. He's not looking at your outfit. If it's her sexual value that brings him to the girl, what do you think he wants to get to know about her? Her intelligence, personality? He wants to get to know the body. If she gives him access to the body, think, well, this will make him like me more. Usually what happens is a guy gets bored because he loses respect. And when he moves on, she's left there thinking, well, maybe if I was skinnier, he would have liked me more. Maybe if I just did more with him sexually, would have stayed longer. And look, guys get used too. Pressure goes both ways. And with modesty, I'm not saying, girls, I want you to look dumpy. I don't want you to show up at your next dance dressed up in some big moo-moo, you know, and some boy that you like sees you and he's like, hey, modesty. And wow, you know, you look at her. like ravishing in your potato sack tonight, stay home. No, you don't have to look frumpy. Just look classy. Take the beauty of being a woman and use it. Teach boys about your dignity. Because look, in my case, I didn't even know how to treat a girl until I dated one in college who dressed modestly. And it was captivating. You could take her seriously as a woman. She wasn't trying to make boys stare at her body parts. I mean, she could have dressed like, hey boys, check this out. But the way she dressed is like she's saying, boys, frankly, I'm worth waiting to see. And under that humility was something radiant. She was basically saying, you will not lift the veil over this body until you lift the veil over my face. And I will grant you, girls, you have this God-given power. Not only to turn the guy's head, you have the power to change his heart. I saw it in San Antonio. Met this beautiful newlywed couple in Texas, deeply in love. When they first met, the girl was all big into chastity. The guy was the total opposite. Mr. Pimp Daddy, sleeping around, looking at porn. And when they met, he was infatuated. He had never met a girl like this. The virtue, the character, the class, she had it all. So he starts hitting on her, and she thinks it's a joke because she knows who he is. She's like, oh, now you want to date a girl like me? And he's like, yeah, why not? What's got to happen? She said, 3 things need to happen. He said, okay, what is it? She said, all right, step number 1, you need to ask my father permission to date me. And he's like, well, that's kind of old school, but I'll do it. Fine. What's number 2? She said, I want you to read this 500-page book on chastity and the theology of the body. 10 days, he read the whole thing. He said, I did number 2. What's number 3? She said, number 3, okay, you may not kiss me until the day you lift my veil on the altar as my husband. She just wanted to see if he was willing to sacrifice because she would not give away her kisses freely. And he said, okay, sign me up. And he dropped his entire old way of life, only to become worthy of this one great woman who's now his bride. Now, girls, I'm not recommending you go off and date Mr. Snoop Dogg hoping you're going to be the Messiah, but the fact is you have power. The question that remains, like, what are you going to do with the power? Because look, at the end of the day, you will never convince some boy of your dignity until you first convince yourself. And here's the proof. We're at a school in Louisiana. Picture this, a gym filled with 1,400 girls, not a single teenage boy. I said, girls, the boys aren't around, so just be honest with me. How many of you girls actually think that if you met a guy today who had self-control, he's a gentleman, pure in the way he talked about girls and treated them, how many think finding that virtue of chastity in a boy today, that'd make him a lot more attractive to you? 1,400 girls put their hands up. I said, okay. Then I went next door to the old guys' school, 1,200 boys. I told the fellows what the girls said. One guy put his hand up. He said, Jason, I don't believe you. I go, no, I promise. All the girls have their hands up. He said, no, I believe you. He said, what I'm trying to say is, like, we don't believe them. I'm like, why not? And he's like, look, you're telling us that they want us to be all innocent and pure, but they're going to dress like that at our dances? They're going to dance like that at our dances? You're telling me she wants me to treat her like a princess, but they're going to act like that on the weekends? He's like, we don't take them seriously. They don't take themselves seriously. And look, I'll grant you girls, it's hard to find modest outfits. You go to buy your prom dress, everything they sell you now is low cut, bare belly, bare back, some slit up to your armpit. Like, I know it isn't easy, but girls aren't helpless. And girls are like, but Jason, if you can't be sexy, how can you get his attention? Can you flirt? It depends. Flirting means different things. Like flirting for me, when I was in 2nd grade, if I liked the girl, throw a rock at her. You know, it's like, oh, it's like, she's hot. Oh, here, watch, like pop, you know, like, yeah. Now she likes me. Yeah, she has a concussion. Well, that's her problem, but girls are different. Girls flirt like this. When you girls are in 4th grade, this is how you'd flirt. You'd see a cute guy, like, oh, he's so cute. And you get in a huddle with your girlfriends. It's like a team effort. It's like, he's cute, what should we do? And they all start plotting together. And the first girl's like, let's give him a note. Oh, that's brilliant, get out the paper. You know, like, do you like my friend? You know, yes, no, or maybe. It's like a survey, he's got to check the box, then you commit. Then you get to like grade 6, you get more sophisticated. You see a cute guy, oh, he's cute, what should we do? Your friend's like, I know, how about when he's leaving class, I'll shove you into him. Oh, that's good, shove me into him, yes, yes, yes. Some of you apparently still doing this, but you guys see the girls hitting each other, laugh. The reason girls think it's so funny, this is what girls talk about when they go to public bathrooms, like 30 of them at a time into the bathroom, that they have couches in there half the time. Like, I saw at a concert, 4 girls came out of one of those porta potties. I'm like, that's not even sanitary, but you gotta do what you gotta do. Then what happens? Girl gets to what? 8th grade, high school. Basically, as soon as you become a woman, the world will tell you, ladies, look, now that you become a woman, you got something boys like now, better than your old notes and games, you've got that body. You can give it to guys who's gonna like you more. Now, girls always begin with this idea. Okay, let me get this straight. So long as I'm technically not having sex with him, I'm being good. So hooking up and making out, that's not a big deal. Doing this with a guy, as long as I love him, it's not a big deal. Doing that, well, it's not a big deal because the other girls at school are worse than I am. And when it's all said and done, a girl convinces herself this priceless gift of her body is just like not a big deal. Something starts to die in the girl. She could go from boy to boy to boy, never sit still. By the time she gets to college, she's got no clue who she is. She's defined her whole identity by the boy she's clinging to, and she thinks she's in love with him. But she's probably in love with the fact that he makes her feel wanted when she doesn't even want herself to half the time. But she's afraid of being alone, and she'll settle for hooking up, but something dies in her. I read about a guy sleeping, his dog's barking, came to the backyard, his dog's barking at a bush. And the guy's like, it's a bush, shut up, go to bed. Goes to sleep. 2:30, the dog starts barking. The guy threw a fit, cocked a gun, came in the backyard, apparently shot and killed the dog in the backyard, went peacefully to sleep. But then what happened is the robber who's hiding in the bushes, out of the bushes, walked over to the body of the dead dog, came inside the guy's house, apparently killed him in his sleep, and robbed everything that he owned. And that dog is like our conscience that tells us right from wrong. And I've said to my conscience, dude, shut up. Don't tell me I should be doing that with her. Don't tell me I should be looking at that. Dude, shut up. I'd kill the voice and do it anyway and think I'm free. I'm not doing what my mom wants. I'm not doing what church wants. I'm free. But then I always think afterwards, yeah, you're so free. How come you're empty afterwards? You're so free you can't even say no to it anymore. You're so free. How come you can't look her dad in the eyes whenever you go over her house? That's your freedom. And it can lead to the point where a girl will say, Jason, look, you got cute stories, but like you don't get it. Like, look, Jason, I'm not a virgin. Or Jason, I had my virginity taken from me. Or something bad happened to me when I was a little girl. And what good guy, like you're all talking about it, as if I know any, would even want a girl like me, who's been through what I've been through. Jason, I am damaged goods. It's too late, and once it's gone, it's gone. Okay, I'll tell you one girl I know, she's 2 years old, she had her first memory. It's her alcoholic, unfaithful, drug-addicted, sexually abusive dad beating up her mom. And he divorced, left the family. He's one of these guys out there, it's kind of like male enough to get a girl pregnant, but not man enough to be a daddy, and she's raised with no father. She gets to high school, she doesn't know how a gentleman should treat a lady. This football player asks her out, and she's thrilled, and they start dating, and he says to her, honey, I've never felt this way about a girl before, I love you. And for her, those words were magic. She never heard that at home, and she said, I love you too. He said, if you love me, show me. She knew what that meant, so she went to her girlfriends. She said, he wants to start doing this and that, what do you guys think? They said, you like him, right? She said, well, yeah, I like him. Then they said, then it's not a big deal. Everybody's doing it. Don't be a prude. As long as you feel ready, get it over with. So she figured, yeah, not a big deal. At the age of 15, she lost her virginity, thinking they'd be forever in love. She said, in all actuality, all respect was thrown out the window. Because she said, after a while, he didn't want to spend time with me anymore. He was basically spending the time with my body. Because when a girl's getting used, she knows it. She tries to distract herself or ignore it, but she knows there's no peace. He lost respect for her. They started fighting more. Because whenever they were together, it's like that's all he wanted. And she'd give him sex for the sake of feeling love, and he'd just give her love for the sake of getting sex. Eventually, they broke up. And she said, I will never forget the day he walked away for the last time. She said, all I could think is that guy's leaving with something that never belonged to him, and now I'm never going to get it back. I'm not a virgin anymore. What's the point of waiting for marriage? Too late for me. Start a cycle, these relationships. She got to be a year 11 student, biggest stud at school, asked her out, captain of the basketball, football teams. And he said, I've never felt this way about a girl before. I love you. She said, I love you too. He said, if you love me, you'll show me. So she goes back to girlfriends. She said, now he wants to start doing it. What do you guys think? They said, look, let's set standards. Let's not sleep with our boyfriends for 6 months. If he can hold out without her for that long, then I know he loves me, and then we'll sleep together. And now she looks back and thinks, 6 months? 6 months is the price that I put on my body? 6 months of his time, attention, phone calls, that's love. So he held out for 6 months. They started sleeping together. Now he really lost. We started cheating on her, abusing her, physically abusing her, emotionally abusing her, telling her, girl, you're so fat, stupid, and ugly. Fat and ugly, the girl's a kickboxer. Voted the prettiest girl in the high school of 3,000 students. But he had her convinced she was fat and ugly. She was miserable. She said, those Saturday nights, all my friends would say is, oh, it's all fun and games. She said, you wake up the next morning, fun and games are over. I woke up hating myself. She said, I'd sit in my bathroom, flipping over my pregnancy test, scared to death. But then I go to school all week with the biggest mask on my face. I'm so happy with my life. Put a mask on for my parents, one for church, one for the boys, one for me, but I was miserable. Her mom found her birth control pills in her purse and said, you're going to a chastity talk. She said, I'm not going to your stupid thing. I heard those before. Mom said, I don't care. You're going. Forces her. And I don't know who gave her the talk. It wasn't me. But she said, that guy got up there, and the 1 hour I just sat still. Everything changed. She said the guy was honest, and he was blunt, and he was real. And he didn't judge any of us. But she said, it felt like he took my hand out of the audience and he walked through my whole life with me. Because he had done everything I had done. Sex, smoking, drinking. But she said he had something I didn't have. and I wanted it back. He wouldn't have shamed himself. He had a backbone, and I wanted that. So after the talk, she went up to him, took his advice. Hey, start over. She went to the sacrament of reconciliation, got her baptismal innocence restored, and then she wrote a list. 60 things she dreamed of in a future husband. Why never again would she settle for less. And that weekend, the guys called her up. Hey girl, want to hook up? Going to this guy's house. She wasn't dumb. She knew what they wanted. So for the first time ever, she said no. And she stayed home a little lonely and wrote her first love letter to her future husband. I said no to them tonight out of love for you. I'm respecting my body this night out of respect for you. And I can't wait for the day we're going to meet. With all my hopes and prayers and dreams, she signs it. Next weekend, they called her back. Hey girl, where you been? You trying to be too good for us? They tried to make her feel guilty for taking care of herself for once. She turned them down again, another love letter. Every time she was tempted to go back to that life, she'd read the old letters and write a new one. And she got stronger, and that stack of letters got thicker and thicker and thicker. Now, why do you think I know all this stuff about that girl? It's because she's the girl who gave me every single one of those letters on our honeymoon when I married her. This girl's my wife, bride, mother of my kids. Could you imagine how grateful I am she started waiting for me? What if she heard that talk in high school and just blew it off? Chastity, absence, too late for me. You think I would have met her? You think we would even, our children would exist? Everything depended upon that decision she made back in to turn things around. And when we get married, yes, I was a virgin when we got married. And she was, but I had started over in different ways. She started over in her ways. And we don't want to end up getting divorced, so we did things to decrease our divorce rate. But it started with that virtue of chastity. Because look, ladies, what you win a man with is what you keep him with. If you win him with your body, if you win him with pleasure, you have to keep him with pleasure. But here's the problem. He can get pleasure anywhere. He can get it off the internet. He can get it from another girl. It's a repeatable asset. If you win him with your body, then you have to keep him with your body. But here's the problem. Every woman has a body. I can't even remember the last woman I met who did not have a body, okay? It's a repeatable thing. But if you win him with who you are as a human being, that relationship is far more likely to go to the distance. So how do you make it last? When you find love, how do you try to make sure it doesn't end up in divorce? In the second half of this talk, after we take the morning tea, we're going to dive into 3 things that will decrease your risk of getting a divorce and how to make love last for a lifetime and beyond. And so after we take our little tea break, we're going to circle back and dive into the second half of the talk. But the first half, you guys have been awesome. God love you guys, and I'll see you in a little bit. So thanks, guys. So where we left off is I promised you I'd give you 3 things that are statistically shown to decrease your risk of getting divorced. First thing my wife and I decided before we got married is we would not live together before we get married. Now everybody's doing that now. You cohabit, you shack up, you move in together, then maybe you get married. Where does it end up? They actually have a higher divorce rate if you live together before we get married. So why do they do it? They say, well, we need to see if we're compatible with each other. Trust me on this. If you're a guy and she's a girl, you are not compatible. You'll figure that out real fast in marriage. I knew we weren't compatible. Week after marriage, we get back from our honeymoon, she moves all her stuff in my bathroom. Do you know what happens when a girl gets in to go out guy's bathroom when you get married? It's called a hostile takeover, all right? Because, guys' bathrooms are perfect. What do you have? Soap and shampoo? That's it. I mean, some guys don't even have that. And then she moves in. I counted one morning, she had 24 different bottles of things in the shower. It's like a chemist lab in there right now. I'm reading them all. She got, this pumice foot polish. There's, exfoliating body wash with raspberry melon, apricot, applesauce. I'm like, it's salad dressing. They got razor blades. She had one bag, it said lemon sage body butter. I'm like, dude, what do you do with that? Guys aren't into this. How many of you guys have body butter? Well, don't answer the question, but the point is, you're not gonna be compatible, okay? And that's because girls are weird and guys are entirely normal, and that's obvious, but think about it. Think of the word compatible. Comes from the word compati, which means to suffer with. Lasting marriages are not because you fit perfectly. It's because you show up and fight for marriage and get stuff. Because girls, think about it. Living with a guy who's not your husband is crazy. Because think about it. You girls go on one date with a guy, and he's an absolute jerk to you. Breaking up is easy. It's one date. Okay, date a guy for 6 months and break up. Okay, that's harder. But now you sleep with him. Now you move in with him, and then you realize he's not the one for you. Imagine how hard it would be to let go when you've invested that much. Girls don't want to. They want to stay put and fix the guy. Her girlfriends tell her, can't you see he's got problems? She'll make excuses. Look, I know he comes from a bad family and he's made some bad decisions and he's a convicted felon and everything, but he's got a beautiful heart inside. It's dude, don't date your imagination. Don't ever date or marry someone hoping they're going to change. Only commit to someone is if you hope they're going to stay who they are. Otherwise, you're just dating your imagination. You're not even dating that person. So first thing, we didn't live together. Second thing, we didn't sleep together before we got married.
If I had sex with Kristalina before marriage, I'd be lying to her. My body would be telling her one thing. I've given myself totally to you, I'm all yours. If I'm not her husband, the embrace of sex is a lie. This movie came out. This guy sleeps with Cameron Diaz, and then she says to him, don't you know when you make love to a woman, your body makes a promise to her whether you do or not. The promise of sex is I'm completely yours, but if they're not married, it isn't true. And some guys will say to me, but what if it's not like that? Some cheap one-night stand, you're drunk. What if you really care about this girl? And you both talked about it and you both feel ready. How come you can't sleep with her if you really love her? Really love her? What does it mean to love her? You do what's best for her. Really? Best for her to wake up tomorrow? Am I pregnant? Is my mom gonna find out? I spoke at a high school in the States. They had 87 girls pregnant on campus. This did not include the junior high. Grades 7 and 8 brought the number of pregnancies over 100. But here's the question. How many pregnancies do you think that school would have if it were the guys who could get pregnant? Girls, wouldn't it be fun just for 1 month of each year if guys could get pregnant? Let's say May is now Male Fertility Month. I mean, what would happen? Guys would be like, it is National Abstinence Awareness Month this month. I've got my pledge card, the purity ring. Everything would be different. Dates would be different. Imagine some football player with a girlfriend and she starts flirting about sex. He'd be like, well, I'm not ready for sex. Coach would kill me if I got pregnant on the football team next year. I can't run for touchdowns like that. That's not going to work. But he'll let her take the risk any night of the week as long as it's her future, not his. And some guys will tell me, oh, but I'm telling you, I really love this girl I'm sleeping with. Look, if a guy loves a girl he's sleeping with, how come if they're in bed together at her house and her dad comes home, the guy will jump out of like a 5-story window rather than face the dad? This happened to my friend John in high school. He's over at my friend Michelle's house. They're up in her bedroom messing around. They weren't even supposed to be seeing each other. Her dad is supposed to be at work. He came home early, saw John's car out front, boom, bust the door down. They hear him coming upstairs. My friend John's freaking out because he's trapped. There's nowhere to go. He's like, Michelle, where can I hide? In the closet, the desk, in the microwave, where can I fit? There's nowhere to go. He looks, Michelle's bed is like 6 inches off the ground. He's like, honey, I'm going under there. And he dives under the bed and he wiggles under the mattress. He's like, and the bed's like moving up and down in his chest. And the dad breaks the door down, boom. Where's John? Now, Michelle's smooth. She's like, John who? It's like, sweetheart, the bed's levitating behind you. There's a clue. So dad comes up with the bed, looks underneath. My friend John is on the floor in the corner shivering like a rat under the bed. Like, what is he doing there? I mean, if he really loves this girl, why does he know, boy, you better hide from the man who loves her the most. Because he knows in the depths of his heart, this has nothing to do with love and sacrifice. It's about lust, pleasure. If it were about love, do you know how proud he'd be to show the father how he loves the daughter? But as it is, he hides. But why is her dad like that? He's all uptight and protective. Because he's not naive. He knows the price she's going to pay. Because look, man, sex is sexist. Girls always pay the biggest price. I mean, look at this. They studied here 10,000 girls. When a girl starts having sex, what happened in her life? They studied girls from the ages of 12 to 26. They found if the girl starts having sex when she's 12, it's like grade 7, on average, those girls go on to sleep with about 21 different men in their lifetime. If the girl starts having sex in grades 8 or 9, she'll average 14 lifetime sexual partners. Above that, it's 8 down to 7. Numbers go down according to how long you wait. But the sooner the girl starts, unless she starts over, she becomes a little more likely to have more breakups, STDs, out-of-wedlock pregnancy, become a single mom, live under the poverty level, have a divorce, have an abortion, be depressed, on and on. The longer the girl waits for sex, the happier she's going to be. Now, this does not mean if you're not a virgin, you have a terrible life. All this means is how could a guy look at that and say, oh, but I love her enough I could do that with her. Now, with Crystal and I, this is not why we save sex for marriage. You think we practice chastity because of this? It's like, well, honey, I'm afraid of increasing your rates of living under the poverty level, honey. We can't do that tonight. Now, the reason we waited is simple. It's because I love her and love can wait to give, but lust can't wait to get. If you're sexually active right now or just doing sexual stuff, take it out. You'll see if it's real love. We did a big public high school. There's 1,000 freshmen, 1,000 sophomores, or grades 9 and 10. After the talk, a grade 12 student runs in, and he's all ticked off. He's like, dude, who told my girlfriend about chastity? I was like, me. He's like, man. I go, what's the matter? Turns out he's in grade 12. His girlfriend is in grade 9. Yeah, not so good. You know, he was one of these older guys, doesn't have enough social skills to date a girl his own age. But what's the deal with you girls and older guys? I mean, watch this. How many of you girls in here are 15 years old. Put your hands up, 15-year-old girls. Keep your hands up. How many of you girls are currently dating a 12-year-old boy? Oh, I'm proud of you. Yeah, we'll talk later. She's like, he's 12 and a half. Now, how come girls laugh at that? How come girls laugh at that, but when the guy is older, she doesn't think twice? First reason it happens is this. Girls mature faster than guys do. And I know you girls are thinking, well, that's a shocker, but think about it. Look at like a 13-year-old girl. 13-year-old girls, they sit at home and they're like, I want a relationship where I can communicate it with my feelings, my friends, and my shoes, and my Stanley, and da-da-da. Fine. Look at like a 13-year-old boy. 13-year-old boy, he's not there. He goes home, sits in his room, he's like, like you make noises with my armpits. It's fascinating. And look, that's fine. Okay, look, I still do that. But the thing is that, look, dude, 13-year-old girls get bored of 13-year-old guys. But then along comes older guy to the younger girl. First thing she thinks, oh, he's older than me, he's more mature, and he likes me. This is exciting. Little does she know, all the guys know. The younger she is than you, the more easily she'll give in to your desire. She's afraid of your rejection. I'll bet you girls whatever you want. Most of the time what's going on right there, the girl's probably looking for the love she never got from her own dad, but she's not going to find it in the arms of another man. From the time you girls were 2, you want to know, Daddy, am I beautiful? Daddy, do you love me? Do you notice me? Do you want me? Are you going to be here for me? Girls, I'm sorry. If your father is absent or he's abusive in your life, you'll go in the world and the question's not answered. Older guys show up. Yeah, I notice you. Yeah, I want you. Feels like it's making up for that missing love. I saw it one night. I'm putting my daughter Mary to bed. She's 5 years old. I'm kneeling next to her bed, just talk about her day, saying some prayers. I go to give her a hug goodnight, and when I go to hug her, she won't let go. Like a minute goes by, 2 minutes go by, dude, she won't let go. I can feel her little 5-year-old heart beating on mine, her breath on my cheek. I just gave her a big squeeze, and she let go, and she said, wow, Dad, that was a lot of love. I'm like, you bet, girl. Next night, I gave her another big hug. She said, Dad, your breath smells like dead frogs. I'm like, can't win them all. Next night, I gave her another big hug. She said, Daddy, what would happen if your eyeball fell out? And I'm like, dude, what are you talking about? But I saw it. First night, her heart like a sponge, awaiting the love of the Father to fill it up. If that heart of yours is not filled up with real love from home, it's easier to settle for things like lust because at least you'll feel wanted for something. But these poor girls, man, they haven't heard the boy's line before. You know the number one thing he'll say to get you in bed is, look, I love you so much, and you know I would never pressure you to do anything sexual that you're not comfortable with. I totally respect that. We can wait until you're ready for it. And she thinks, oh, you see, he's sweet. But if you watch it, he'll sexually take from her everything she's willing to give. He is not guarding her innocence, he's wearing it down. Her girlfriends tell her, can't you see he's bad for you? It's like she's deaf. She's like, I know he has problems, but he smells good. I can't break up, I don't know what to do. And she stays put. But when it is real love, it'll bring you closer to everyone who loves you. Family, friends, God. When it's not real love, you get plucked away from all three. Remember that guy ran in the auditorium? Who told my girlfriend about chastity? I said, me, what's the matter? He said, I just saw my girlfriend in the hallway after your talk. She looked all happy, and now she won't sleep with me anymore. I want to find out what happened to her. I said, oh, you could sleep with her again one day. Marry her. He was like, pfft. I said, isn't she worth waiting for? He said, no. It's the love test. You want to know if a boy loves you? Well, here is your chance to find out. Sometimes he does. Cincinnati, big football player, came up after the talk. He said, Jason, your talk got done an hour and a half ago. He said, I went back to class. I couldn't hear anything the teacher was saying. He goes, be honest? Yeah, I'm having sex. He said, I'm sleeping with the girl at the university, a college girl. And he goes, but I love her. He's like, I know I love her. But man, I know we shouldn't be doing this stuff behind her dad's back. There's no honor in that. And he goes, sure I do love her. This is what I did after your talk. And he opened up his notebook, showed me a piece of paper filled front and back with his handwriting. All it said across the top was 100 ways to start loving Kelsey without having sex. He emailed me 3 days later. He said, I'm almost done at the 100. I'm going to make it 1,000. Thanks, this is going to make a difference. Could you imagine how strong his marriage could be one day if he knows 1,000 ways to love a woman before sex? Problem is when sex comes in first, it covers up the absence of that love that failed to develop. And some guys will say, but girl, if you love me, if you really love me, you'd give it to me if you love me. Girl, if he loved you, he wouldn't be asking for it in the first place. And if you love him, you can't give him whatever he wants because you're afraid he'll get it from another girl. That is not love, it's insecurity. Love to not give people whatever they want. It's like I came downstairs looking for my kids once. I'm like, hey guys, where are you? Silence. I'm like, come on, it's not funny. John Paul, Colby, Mary, where are you? Silence. Now, when my kids are quiet, it means they're either sleeping or doing something illegal. Those are the only options you have on the table. I know they're up to no good. I look in the kitchen, Freezer's open. There's a gallon of ice cream missing from the freezer. I'm like, yeah, I know that is Colby. I'm like, Colby, I know where he is. I go in the kids' playroom, got a big slide in there. Under the slide is a cave. I look in the cave, dude, sure enough, there he is. He's completely naked, eating a gallon of ice cream out of his lap. I'm like, El Gordo, give it to me. And he's like, oh, here comes Dad. And I grab his fat little ankles. I'm dragging him on his butt on the floor. He's still scooping it in, sliding on the floor. I pull it away. Give it to me. He pulls it back. He's like, you don't love me. I'm like, I don't love you? I'm like, dude, you're lactose intolerant. I'm like, boy, you'd be on the toilet for a week if I let you eat all that. Of course I love you. It's because I love you. You can't have whatever feels good. It's just not good for you. Same principle on chastity, love. Why do you think I waited 27 years for my wife? Love. You think we save sex for marriage because we're afraid of it? We can't have sex. We're going to get pregnant, die of an STD, and go to hell. We can't do that. No, it's not about obeying all the rules so you don't go to hell. It's about actually wanting heaven for the person that you love. And that's the second thing we did, is save it for marriage. Third thing for a solid marriage, one of the beauties of self-control, you don't have to worry about birth control. Even in marriage, no way on God's green earth would I put my wife's body on that junk. I mean, how disrespectful. Is my wife's fertility some kind of disease that I'd have to give her pills to make her available to me? That's messed up. Girls are not told the truth about birth control. Doctors never say, sweetie, here's your birth control pills. Ooh, did we forget to tell you? Yeah, that'll increase your risk of developing breast cancer. Some doctors are like, oh, the pill in breast cancer is not true. Oh, it's not? Well, who thinks it's true? Well, let's see. The United Nations says it's true. The Mayo Clinic says it's true. The companies that make the birth control pill admit the link to breast cancer. But they don't tell the girls that. They say, well, if you don't want the birth control pill, we'll give you the birth control shot. What, Depo? Dude, the company that makes that's been sued for $700 million because it thins out the girl's bones. There's 20-year-old university girls now that have the bones of a 70-year-old woman in their body because they took Depo for too many years as a teenager. California, if you're a child molester or rapist, you know what they do to you? Oh, they'll put you in prison where you belong. You know how they punish you when you're there? According to a California government website, sex offenders in California now are to be punished by Depo-Provera treatment, and the inmates shall continue getting injections till the treatment is no longer necessary. They inject child molesters with girls' birth control as a punishment. Why? Because it will decrease your desire for sex. But you know they won't give it to anymore are the dogs. Veterinarians refuse to. They said it's not safe enough for our house pets. But they'll give it to any girl that walks in some clinic. And they say, look, well, if you don't want the birth control shot, we'll give you the birth control implant, the patch. Read about this stuff. This one's Implanon. You read the side effects. It says, ladies on Implanon, call your doctor right away. If you start coughing up blood, you go completely blind or unconscious. It's like, what? It's like, how's she supposed to make the phone calls? Like, has anyone seen my cell phone around here? I mean, dude, coughing up blood. What was so wrong with their fertility in the first place? Your fertility is a gift. It's not some disease. I asked a bunch of high school guys once, hey guys, what's the most common sexually transmitted disease? One guy was like, ooh, I know, pregnancy. I'm like, no. I'm like, kids are not bacteria, okay? I mean, fatherhood is joy. You know, and some people are like, look, I'm sure you like being a dad, but seriously, being a dad in high school, you think that'd be fun? I know. One guy came up to me in the States. He said, Jason, we got to talk. I said, what's going on? He said, I found out this morning I got a girl pregnant. I said, okay, well, what's the situation? What's going on? He goes, you know the real problem here? He's like, I hate this girl. I was like, what? He's like, I hate her. I'm like, what were you doing in bed with her in the first place if you hated her? He said, honestly, she kept bugging me to have sex with her. I wanted to get her off my back, so I did it with her. Now she's pregnant, wants to abort the kid. I don't know what to do. I don't believe in abortion, but she wouldn't be a good mom anyway. She can't even clean her own room. I'm sitting there thinking like, dude, 1 minute, this guy's having a beer, thinking he's just hooking up with the girl, but they're playing with the well springs of human life. And who pays the biggest price isn't him or the girl, it's the baby that never had a chance to live. And so they'll tell you girls, you see that? That's why you need birth control, okay? You're not gonna have self-control. It's like, wait a minute, no. Self-control frees you to love. If my wife and I wanna plan how many kids we have, now we listen to the church. We use natural family planning. NFP is now 99% effective with no side effects. There's wisdom in the church. But the biggest lie I think we get fed is this safe sex. Safe sex is not safe. I was in Michigan. I asked 10,000 students, what's the number one STD? They didn't know. I went to Philadelphia. I asked 19,000 students, what is the most common sexually transmitted infection? They didn't know. I've asked students that question in South Africa, Australia, Honduras, Haiti, the Philippines, Brazil. They don't know. They're like AIDS, chlamydia, syphilis, herpes. There's always some guy in the corner, he's like, crabs. And I'm like, no, it's not crabs, stay away. Well, what is it? It's not AIDS. Number one STD has killed more girls than AIDS has, but they don't want to talk about it. It's not herpes, it's not chlamydia. Those are scary for girls, because when girls get this stuff, most girls don't know. You feel fine, you look fine. Problem is, you could sleep with a boy when you're 17, get chlamydia, you don't know you have it, then you get married when you're 24, try to have a baby with your husband, the disease could have taken away your ability to ever have kids. This mother came up to me. She said, Jason, will you tell those teenagers about me? I said, yeah, what? She said, Jason, I got married as a virgin to a man who'd been sexually active before we met. But she said, when we got married, my husband honestly didn't know. He was asymptomatic, which means you don't show any symptoms. She said, on the night of our honeymoon, my husband honestly did not know he was infected with herpes, gonorrhea, chlamydia, and human papillomavirus, and he had no symptoms. So she said, I got married, I got herpes, had 2 babies, they have it for life now. Gonorrhea and chlamydia scarred my fallopian tubes, no more kids for us. HPV caused cervical cancer, I'd have an operation on that too. And you know what her husband was thinking, sleep around beforehand? It's all good, no one's getting hurt. Who pays the price tag? Is the wife, the kids, and the kids he'll never have because he killed his wife's fertility. Number one STD is what she had called HPV, human papillomavirus. Most people don't even show a symptom of it, but can cause cervical cancer in girls. So they came out with vaccines like Gardasil. Man, all these people are getting a vaccine thinking you're not going to get HPV. Look, Gardasil prevents up to 9 types of HPV. Problem is, there's more than 40 different types that are out there. Your risk of cancer will go down, but you can still get cancer from other strains of the virus. It's getting so widespread, it is hard to believe. Journal of Gynecology studied the high school girls. How many of these girls got HPV from the first boy they slept with? In this study, it was 46%. Every other girl from the first partner. The good news is it usually goes away, doesn't cause big problems. But it's getting so widespread, we're seeing all this cancer. University students, you'll be heading off to uni in 2 years. Before you get there, you guys might want to know. How many girls at your college are going to have HPV? At least in America, the number today stands at 45%. Every other girl currently infected. How is this even possible? Well, this explains it. Scientists have never done this before. They studied the sexual activity of an entire public high school. Who had sex with who? Here's what they found out. 1,000 students. Half the school not having sex. Half the school was. But here's the kicker. Half of the students who were having sex didn't even know. They were all connected to each other in a web of 288 students. 100 of them had only been with one other person, but that's not the question. Who was she with before me? Who was he with before her? They found out. Mapping out the whole school, showing if you slept with anybody from this campus, theoretically, you could be in bed with up to 1/4 of the entire student body through a single act of intercourse. This is how the thing is spreading. So why don't they talk to you more about HPV? One basic reason, safe sex is not safe. HPV is spread from mid-thigh to mid-abdomen contact. Any skin-to-skin sexual contact can transmit the virus. The government admits this. In America, the Centers for Disease Control says this: the scientific evidence is not enough to recommend condoms to prevent HPV. I'm like, but you taught us safe sex. They said, we have strategies now. What's that? Strategy number 1, don't have sex. Okay, we covered that. Strategy number 2, this is great. If you choose to be sexually active and you don't want HPV, choose a partner who is not infected with HPV. Well, cutting edge research. They have backed off from the safe sex slogan because medically it's not accurate. And I'm not telling you that to scare you. You have a right to this information. If you've been sexually active, please go get tested. A lot of the stuff get healed and put in the past. If you go to a clinic and they say, hey, make sure to use protection next time. Really, protection? I know a guy who used protection every time. You know how many pregnancies he caused? 7 of them. You know how many moms he married? None of them. You go call that protection. I call that child abuse. A real man does not obsess with protecting himself. He's a little bit more focused on protecting his future spouse and kids. And you do it through chastity. Now, I hate discussing all that STD stuff. So where do you go from here? Guys, girls. Girls, take off after school this week. Go to some shopping mall. If you want to get married one day, why don't you buy a white candle? Let your husband light that on your wedding night as a sign of the purity you've maintained from this day, the day he lifts your veil. I know a girl got one of those purity rings. Her fiance proposed to her. She took the ring off and gave it to him. She said, I saved that for you like I saved myself for you. He thanked her for it and put it in his wallet. Without her knowing, he took it to the jeweler who's making his wedding band, had the jeweler melt the silver of her ring into the gold of his wedding band, and that's what he wears on his ring finger as her husband. To realize, girls, there's something greater out there if you wait. So from this point on, girls, don't you ever be afraid some boy is going to leave you if you don't give him something sexual. Girls, you turn that around and you let the boy be afraid. He's the one who could lose you if he doesn't know how to respect you. And girls will say, but Jason, there's the problem. There's no good guys anymore. anymore. I'm never going to find a good guy. I'm just going to grow old, be alone, live in an apartment with 12 cats and be miserable for the rest of my life. And girls give up hope. 3 girls came up to me once, like, Jason, guys are jerks. I'm like, no, there's lots of good guys. They're like, guys are jerks. I'm like, whoa, issues, easy, tiger. I asked the first girl, look, are you dating anyone? She said, we're kind of dating. It's complicated. And I go, well, tell me about him. We talked for an hour and a half. She finally admitted, okay, he is a drug dealer. He swears a lot, drinks a lot. He's cheated on her, and her parents hate him, but I couldn't figure out why. Parents are so unfair. And then the next girl jumps in. She said, Jason, all guys are jerks? I said, no, there's so many good gentlemen. I meet them all the time. She said, they're all jerks. She said, we were at a party 3 weeks ago. These guys came up behind a girl, and they poured a beer on her head because she was a girl. 2 weeks ago, we were at the same party. They poured a beer on another girl's head. Last weekend, we were at the same party, and they poured a beer on another girl's head. See, guys are jerks. I said, what are you doing this weekend? They're like, we're going to the party. I'm like, I wonder where your problem's coming from. That's why I beg you, set the standard high. Because look, man, if you have to lower your morals to find love, it's not love you're finding. You girls really want love? Dude, just grow a backbone. You know what it looks like? Perfect example. I read about a girl. She gets a text message from some boy. This guy wants her to send him some like revealing photograph of herself. And so he texts her. He's like, hey, why don't you send me a picture of yourself? And she's like, oh, okay, here you go. Click, took a selfie of her face and sent him that. He got the picture, he's kind of disappointed. He texted her back. He's like, hey, I didn't mean a picture of your face. And she's like, ooh, okay, here you go. Click a selfie of her foot and send him that picture instead. Dude, that is the girl who's going to find real love. So you know, girls, if any guy ever asks you to send him a revealing photograph of yourself, ladies, I give you absolute permission to send him a picture of your completely bare hand waving goodbye to him, okay? Because that is as much flesh as he deserves to see, okay? A gentleman would never ask you for that kind of a picture, nor would he accept it and collect it and share it. That's not a gentleman, that's a collector of child porn. Don't date these losers. And you know what? Never date a guy who hides behind his cell phone to ask you out in the first place. Because if he can't face the fear of rejection, he won't even break up with you face to face. We gotta make relationships more human. So girls, help each other with this. Quit the gossip. Oh, you see that girl? She is such a slut because she did that, and she's a hoe because I heard she did that. I saw it on X, so I know it's true because it's retweeted, sources are verified. No, sluts don't exist. I meet 100,000 students a year, and I have never met a slut. And you may be thinking, well, then I haven't met this girl yet, apparently. I'm like, well, perhaps, but I'll bet you I know the girl better than you do. I know a girl in New York. Her school will not call her a slut. They do not call her a slut. Her school calls her the slut on campus because they all know what she did with the boys. Okay, look, I know what she did with the guys too, but I know a lot more than that. I know this. I know her brother died, her cousin died. Her friend committed suicide, she got depressed and started hurting herself. That didn't help. She wasn't loving her body, so she slept with the guy at work. He got her pregnant, and he said, I don't want your baby. Shoved her down the stairs. She had a miscarriage, lost the baby. Now she's depressed and going through eating disorders, and you know who she is, my friends. She's the slut, right? Doesn't that identify her perfectly? No one had a clue what she had been through. That's why I beg you, take the labels off. Nobody in here is perfect. A girl came up, gave me this big hug after the talk once, started crying. She's like, Jason, thank you. She took her Playboy bunny necklace, ripped it off of her neck, and gave it to me. And she said, I am so done. I took her necklace to the next school, showed them. Girl from that school came up, gave me her Playboy bunny necklace. I didn't even know they were into these things. Then I got a third one, fourth, fifth, no kidding. I have 29 of them now, so I could sell them on eBay, but I wouldn't do that. And girls just started giving me stuff after the talk. Playboy purses, belly button rings, birth control pills. Guys started getting into it. One guy in LA gave me his official Pimp Daddy membership card, so I got one of those, but it was his way of starting over, so whatever helps. So where do the guys go from here? I think guys could have different reactions to today's talk. First reaction, you can walk out of here. What's the first thing you look at afterwards typically? Guys look at the other guys. What'd you guys think of the talk? I don't know. What'd you think of the talk? I don't know. What'd you think of the talk? Because look, girls, in high school, we want to impress you. But I'm sorry to break the news. We're just more interested in impressing the other guys. Because until a man knows he's a man, he's always trying to prove he is one. So if I think degrading a woman somehow makes me more of a man, I used to do it to score points with boys because I was insecure. But what's needed with chastity is authenticity. You can't be one guy on Saturday night, a different guy Sunday in church. One guy in front of the girl's parents and their backs are turned and you become somebody else. It demands you have no duplicity. New York, 3 basketball players came up after the talk, and I love basketball. We started talking. They're sleeping with all these girls. And I said to him, how do you want some guy to treat your daughter one day? He goes, oh, we ain't having daughters, we're just having sons. I'm like, oh. I said, why don't you want a daughter? And he was honest. He said, I know what I'm doing to girls. And he said, I'd kill a guy if he ever did to my girl one day. So that's the solution. Use girls, but don't have your own? No, what's needed is authenticity. I saw it at a school. They're the best basketball team in the country. After the talk, the star of the team came up to me. He's almost 7 feet tall. And he walks up. He's like, yo, can we talk in the back? I'm like, yes, come with me. And I took his hand. We went back here. I'm like, what's going on up there? He said, look, to be honest with you, he said, I've been with so many girls. I've done so much stuff. I knew it was wrong, but dude, she wanted it. I wanted it. Half the time I was drunk and I just tried to blame it on the beer. He said, nowadays, girls around here, he said, they're worse than the guys half the time. You should see the nasty messages they're sending. He said, but after your talk today, it's different. He said, I want to be faithful to my wife before I meet her. I don't want to get married and give her all these memories I have of girls I'm never going to see again when I graduate. But how do you start over when you've been where I've been? He said, when you're with the girl and she says she's ready for sex, how do you say no to that? I said, if she thinks she's ready for sex, and she's not ready to be a mother, she has no clue what she's talking about. Boston, 7th grade boy came up to me. Jason, my girlfriend and I have talked to her, we're ready. I'm like, bro, he's 12. I'm like, ready? I'm like, are you ready to be a father? He said, no, just for sex. So after explaining to him the shocking connection they just discovered between the two, I said, look, you know I'm married, got a couple little kids. I go, you know you don't know about me? Our first baby has had so many medical problems. He's had to be in all these different hospitals. You know, the first 2 years of being a new dad, I spent more than $30,000 on medical bills on him so I could have the best doctors taking care of my sick boy. And you got what it takes to be a good father. You ready for sex? He opened up his wallet and showed me his money. He's like, I have $5. I'm like, buy her pizza. I mean, if you love her, prove it. Is it easy? No, but let's be honest, guys. We cause 90% of our own temptations by what we look at and who we hang out with, but then we want to blame it on the girls for why it's hard to be pure. You want to make it easy? Find good friends. You will always become like your friends. My friends in high school were terrible. Best friend and I, driving home from school, he pulls his car in the parking lot of a pornographic adult bookstore. I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, I want to go in the nudie bookstore. I'm like, don't go in some nudie bookstore, you filthy little pervert. And he's like, well, I'm going in there. I'm like, I'm not going in there. I'm not some perv. My porn's at home. You know, I'm sitting there. It's like 5 minutes, 15, 20. I'm like, what is he doing? I look at my watch. Yeah, I had a confirmation class to be at a church soon, but I'm sitting in the parking lot of some filthy bookstore waiting for the best friend to get out. It dawned on me, Jason, you made a stupid choice of friends. You might have a lot of good friends, but you don't have friends that are good. But then I found those friends. Campus ministry is so much easier to live a good life because you always become like your friends. Second thing to make it easier, only date a girl if you can really see yourself marrying her. Because when you date, it's like you're getting on a freeway and there's only 2 exits. Breakup and marriage, and that's it. And if that's the reality, what's the point of committing to anybody unless you can see this relationship really going the distance? But in the end, you can try all the strategies in the world. This lifestyle is not possible if you don't have a relationship with God. So what I would say, number 1, if you're Catholic, go to confession. If you're not Catholic, maybe open the Bible, Psalm 51 for a clean heart. But if you're Catholic, go to confession. Some people are like, I'm not going to confession. What if I tell the priest what I did? That's the point. What do you think, you invented a sin? What's he going to call the Vatican afterwards? Like, I've never heard of this before. Pope Francis, dude. Pope Francis wouldn't care. He'd be like, no hablo inglés, click. So just go. You feel so much better afterwards. The problem is, honestly, a bunch of you have already been to confession, but I'll be frank with you, your confession stinks. It's like, Father, forgive me. I did this and this and this. What about that? Oh, we don't need to talk about that. That happened a while ago. It was kind of embarrassing. Why don't you get rid of that other stuff? I'll kind of hang on to this one. Doesn't work like that. Some guy tried to do that to Padre Pio once. Yeah, good luck with that. Saint Padre Pio could read your soul. Padre Pio looked at the man and said to him, you live near water, but you don't wash. In other words, don't just go to confession, have a great confession. And the beautiful thing is, you don't even have to go to confession because today, confession has come to you. Priests are going to be available immediately after this talk, during lunchtime, at the chapel, outside the chapel, out back. Go to confession. So today, you don't just get a motivational speech, you get to go home with your baptismal innocence given back to you. Go to confession, go at least once a month. Second thing for us is big, never leave the Mass. My wife and I go to Mass every day. because every grace you need to love, you get from love himself. Never leave the bread of angels. Third thing was huge for me was devotion to Our Lady, the rosary. Because you look at porn, dude, it takes 5 minutes to look at porn. And then it feels like it takes 15 years to forget what you saw. So for me, it was devotion to Our Lady that just healed my memories and taught me how to look at girls again. So get a rosary, keep it in your pocket, and pray it every day. And if you can't do that, at least say the name of Mary as a prayer when you're tempted. She'll come through for you. Or wear a miraculous medal. And to help you live this out, we're going to give free books to all of your schools. We're going to be shipping them to the teachers. And what you're going to get is a book my wife and I wrote for the girls called How to Find Your Soulmate Without Losing Your Soul. 21 Secrets for Women. The first chapter is the top 10 guys to avoid. So it's like a manual on how to avoid losers. And so you're going to get that book. And then my wife couldn't come with me on this trip, so we brought a copy of her book that she wrote for you girls called Pure Womanhood. In the middle of this little booklet, my wife included for you girls her dump him list, okay? It's like 16 things. If a guy has any of them, you just say goodbye. Don't let the door hit you where the good Lord splits you. So that's all in there. Then also a copy I wrote called Pure Love. And then some people are like, where's the book for the guys? Guys don't read, okay? So here's the book for the guys, like 30 pages, larger print. There's pictures, bring crayons. But guys started bugging me about that. They're like, oh, whatever. Like we're literate. We want a book. I'm like, okay, what book do we give to the guys they're going to want to read? And then it dawned on me. I'm like, dude, that's it. I know. I've always felt bad for the guys because when it comes to dating, girls, sex, all that stuff, all you get told is what you can't do. Don't do this, don't do that, don't do that, okay, whatever. Then you get to college, university, it's like, okay, I got this down. I can't sleep with my girlfriend, can't live with my girlfriend, can't have an abortion with my girlfriend, can't clone my girlfriend. I learned that in ethics class, okay, like great. I know everything I can't do with a woman. What am I supposed to do with one? Oh, yeah, we don't teach that. Good luck in college, bye. I'm like, that's not fair. So I said, that's it. We need a book for the guys on dating etiquette. So I started writing the book, and then I quit. Because I'm like, dude, guys don't care what I think about dating. Guys want to know what the women think about dating. But here's the problem. Girls don't want to tell the guy what they want the guy to know because they want it to come from him and not from her. I'm like, dude, how do you get around this? So I look at our social media analytics. We got more than 100,000 girls following us on social media. So I said, ladies, I'm writing a book for the guys on dating. Would you girls just tell me what you wish we knew about dating? How do you want to be asked out? How do you not want to be asked out? Where do you want to go on a first date? Or how can a guy break up with you without just ghosting you? Give me specifics, and I'll put it in the book for the boys. Leave your comments below, and I posted it. And oh boy, the floodgates opened. Women submitted more than 100,000 words of feedback, but it was gold. And I wrote down what the girls said in this book called The Dating Blueprint for the Guys, where we get super specific. Like when you ask a girl on a date, okay? First, you have to use the word date. Don't say, do you want to hang out? You want to get together? Because in her brain, it's like, oh, hang out? What does that mean? Are you going to take me on like a romantic riverboat cruise? We're going to like sit in your basement and play Minecraft. Like, what do you mean hang out? Use the word date. And when you ask her out, you are not allowed to ask her out through a text message. That is cowardly, it is lame, and it is insincere. You got to ask her out face to face. Also, when you ask her out, you have to plan the date. Don't sit around, what do you want to do? I don't know. What do you want to do? I don't know. We can play Clash of Clans, Clash Royale, Brawl Stars, Sidewalk Surfer. No, plan the date. Like, put thought into it. And the problem is, you tell a guy to plan a date, what does he do? Dinner and a movie. No. Do you know the movie theater was the #1 place the girls said they don't want to go on a first date? And the guy's like, why not? Dinner and movie. Dude, think about it. You take her to the movies, and you bring her home, and you're like, I really enjoyed getting to know you better tonight. And she's like, what? Like, we just watched Kong beat up Godzilla for 3 hours. You think you know me better because of that? No. Take her to a place you can talk and have some fun. If you take her to a restaurant, pick her seat for her. Not because you're telling her where to sit, but if it's a beautiful view, give her the view. If there is no view, the man should take the seat facing only her and then the wall. So she knows during dinner, your attention is on her. Not on sports, not on the cute little hostess walking by, and it makes her feel honored. You tell us the young guys, like, okay, that's good, that's good. We just want specifics. But the most important chapter of the whole book is the last one on how to date your wife. And I put that in there because I met a woman once, and she said, Jason, I've been married for 30 years. She said, do you know the last date my husband took me on was the night he proposed to me 30 years ago, and he's never taken me on another date since. 3 decades, no dates. Contrast that to a buddy of mine. He's lived in Texas. He's been married for 20 years. Never once has he ever missed his weekly date night with his bride in 20 years. Rain or shine, he'd take her on a date. It doesn't matter if the kids are sick in the living room, like throwing up in buckets. Like, they don't care. They'll just like drug him out with Benadryl and have a date in the kitchen at midnight. Like, he's going to have a date with his wife. I'm telling you, that guy's kids are going to know how to date because their parents never forgot how to date. You really want to know why dating is such a mess today? It's so many of our parents forgot how to date each other. And now we live in a culture of single people who pretend like they're dating. The dating people behave like they're married, and the married people seem to think they're single. Everything is out of order. And so this book just tries to put it back in order. But the one challenge we got for the guys, before you ask a girl on a date, is this. Guys, one request. You're not allowed to ask a woman on a date if you're still looking at porn. You can't do it. You can't ask a woman to commit to you unless you're prepared to be faithful to her. And good guys will say to me, look, Jason, I get it, okay? Porn's bad. And look, I'm trying to get rid of it, and I'll be good for like 3 weeks, and then I mess it up. And then I'll be strong for like a month, and then I fall back to the same dumb habits I've had since I'm 11 years old. How do you break free once and for all? So my friend Matt Fradd, from Australia, he and I wrote a book together called Forged. It's a 33-day game plan for guys to have lasting freedom. And so this book also will be sending to your schools. If You Really Love Me answers the top 100 questions on dating and relationships. A prayer book I wrote called Pure Faith. It's free on the iTunes store if you got that free app. So all that stuff we're going to send to schools for free. And if you got questions, we also have a website called chastity.com where we answer your questions. But the best gift we have for you is this. As of today, I have thousands of people praying for you. The last place I spoke in the States, I asked all those high school students to be praying for you. And then this morning, I put a post out on social media, took a little picture of the crowd. I'm like, hey, talk starts here in Australia. Please start praying. I put it on Instagram, Facebook, X. All the people there, I check comments. We're praying for you guys in Kenya. We're praying for you all in the Philippines. All these prayers are descending on you right now. All I ask in return, please pray for all the students that I speak to. Tonight, I've got another talk for the parents. Then tomorrow, I think I've got 3 different high schools, and then a talk in the evening. And the next day, I've got 2 more high schools, and then a talk for young adults and college students. Please pray for all of them. Why? Because I could speak to your future husband or wife tomorrow. You never know what lifestyle they could be in today. That's why I beg your prayers. I know one girl, 16 years old, woke up. I need to pray for my future husband. And she prayed for him and went to bed. Years later, they met and got married. She said, honey, I prayed for you when I was 16. And he's like, oh, thanks. She says, look, my diary that night, I prayed for you. He said, you know, I used to have a journal back then. Let me see if I can find it for fun, see what I was up to. Found the journal. He said, that's the year I was in the war because he was a veteran. She said, what does it say that night? He said, honey, the night you prayed for me is the night the enemy troops came across our lines. They slaughtered almost every man in my platoon, and they spared me. So, thanks for your prayers. Prayers are good. Prayers are good. So I beg your prayers. And I know today I said a lot to you guys. Future husband, future wife. Some of you are being called to a higher vocation. Priesthood, religious life. Don't be afraid of that. Some of you are like, God, don't pick me. God, don't pick me. Look, if God gives you that calling, he'll give you that desire, and there'll be peace there. And I know some of you may be thinking, but Jason, your whole talk today is nothing but boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife. What about homosexuality? How does any of this apply to me if those are the attractions I experience? I think if you experience homosexual attractions, the world is going to tell you, look, you'll only have 2 options, okay? Option number 1, hide in a closet out of fear that if anyone knew that you had those feelings, they would hate you and be bigoted against you. Or if you don't want to live in a closet, and who would, come out of the closet. Embrace your sexual attractions as your identity. Forget about God, the church, and the Bible, and do what you want with your body. Gay pride or gay shame, what's your pick? But what if you felt stuck in the middle? Wait a minute. I don't want to throw away God, but seriously, shame? Why do I have to live ashamed of something I never chose to begin with? It's not like I woke up this morning, oh, it's Monday, I'll be attracted to guys today. It doesn't work like that. Will people hate you for having these feelings? I'm sorry. Yes, some people will. You see them on TV. They got their protest signs. They're like, God hates gays. I'm like, dude, God hates your stupid sign, all right? That's what he hates. But the problem is, fanatics like that make everybody think that if you believe in traditional marriage, well, you're a hateful, homophobic bigot. But that's not true. I was at the store buying a frame for a painting someone gave me of Pope John Paul II. I put the painting down, and the guy looked at it, and he said, oh, Pope John Paul II. He said, I used to be a Catholic boy, but the church doesn't want me anymore. I said, what do you mean the church doesn't want you? And he opened up to me about homosexuality. I said, no, the church wants you. This is your home. God wants you. God loves you. I love you. He's like, what church do you go to? We had a great conversation. 2 weeks later, I came back. I'm like, hey, Eric, how are you? He said, you remembered my name. I said, yeah, how you been? He said, okay, we started talking. 10 minutes into the conversation, his eyes started turning red, and this tear just came down his cheek. And he said, can I hug you? I said, absolutely. He came around the counter. I gave him a big hug. My son, John Paul, was there. I'm like, John Paul, give him a hug. My son's hugging his leg, and I was hugging him. And I was driving home thinking, like, okay, what is it in the conversation that hit him like that? I think what it was is that I did not tolerate him. I loved him enough to tell him the truth. Look, bud, your sexual attractions, like mine, are not our identities. If anyone in the world defines their identity by who they're sexually attracted to, life would get confusing so fast. Because what would happen to me? On Thursday morning, I fly out of the Sydney airport. What if I see some stunningly beautiful woman in that airport who's not my wife? And I'm attracted to a woman who's not my wife. Is that attraction my identity? No. If I see some pornographic billboard, I think she's pretty. Is that my identity? No. If you experience homosexual attractions, your identity is that you are a beloved son or daughter of God. Man, you are living right now in a culture that wants you to sexualize your identity like it's sexualizing your deodorant, Doritos, and cheeseburgers, like everything's sexual now, and it's crazy. I was at a hardware store, they had a magazine. It says if you buy the magazine, you will learn blueprints to build sexy shutters for your house. And I'm like, enough! Like, I don't need sexy window treatments. I mean, could you imagine if your friend came over your house this afternoon, they're walking through your kitchen and they're like, whoa, you have really sexy shutters. You'd be like, you're a really weird friend, but this is what's going on. Your identity is being sexualized, your products have been sexualized, the new casualty, friendships are getting sexualized. Have you ever noticed two guys hang out a lot? People get suspicious. Like, you guys are hanging out a lot. You guys having a bromance? No, we're having a masculine friendship. I've never heard of that before. Sounds suspicious to me. And to me, the biggest key is this. Attractions are being over-sexualized. All over the world, students are coming to me, and a girl will say something like this. Jason, I'm really confused because I think I'm straight. My friends think I'm a lesbian, so I'm concluding that I'm bi, and I'm trying to figure it out. And I'll be like, well, what's going on? And she'll say, well, the school I go to, the boys are really perverted and immature and gross. But there's a girl on my campus, I come alive when I'm around her. And she's beautiful and funny and smart. My friends are telling me it's a girl crush and we should experiment, I don't think. And I said, look, I don't know if no one's just not told you this before. You're supposed to be repulsed by everything repulsive. You're supposed to be attracted to everything attractive. So your friend here, her wit, her charm, her beauty, doesn't that draw you to her? She said, it does. I said, look, I go to a Bible study. There's an 85-year-old man in our class with a gigantic beard, and I'm completely attracted to that guy. I mean, his sense of humor, his joy, I just want to be around the guy. Because guess what? Not every human attraction is a sexual attraction. And I'm telling you, this girl's eyes lit up. She's like, I've never thought about it like that before. That makes so much sense. Now look, it isn't always that cut and dry. Some people do experience sexual attractions, member to the same sex. How does chastity apply to them? Don't take my word for this. You go to our website, chastity.com, click the button LGBT, watch the videos, read the blogs. They're all done by friends of mine who experience these attractions and have found joy in embracing all the church teaches on love, sex, marriage, and chastity. But don't take my word for it. Watch them share their stories. And I know today, I said a lot to guys about boyfriend, girlfriend. But like I said at the top, most of you don't have one. I think that's great. My high school is 1,000 students. Today I'm friends with 2 of them. My wife's high school, 3,000 students. Today she knows none of them. Your life is going to go way beyond this place. That's why one girl told me, she said, Jason, you're right. You don't go to high school to find a husband. She said, you go to high school to find your bridesmaids. I said, girl, you get the point to take your time. Because when a girl doesn't take her time, you know what happens? She meets a cute guy. They start flirting. They start texting. Then she kisses him. Now she's like emotionally married. She's like stalking him on social media till 2 o'clock in the morning. She's picking out her wedding dress on Pinterest. She only known the guy 3 weeks. Then 4 weeks in, reality hits. And she's like, ugh, I didn't know he flirts with other girls. I didn't know he drinks. I didn't know he looks at porn. I didn't know he builds a methamphetamine lab in his closet with his friends on Wednesdays. Like, I didn't know that. It's like, sweetheart, thus the point. Take your time, find yourself, love will find you. Now, last thing is this. If I only had 60 seconds to talk to you, this is the only thing I'd say. And if there's only one thing you hear from me, it's all it's got to be. If after hearing this talk today, maybe your heart's heavy and you got thinking that you have to do, all you need to know is one thing, how God looks at you for doing that stuff. And this is how he sees you. True story. Years ago, a dad dropped his kid off at preschool in Armenia. He said, I love you, I'll pick you up after school. Promise come get you. Dad went to work. Huge earthquake struck Armenia. The dad shoots back, it's too late. School's collapsed, faculty's dead. Dad shows up, I know my boy's in that school. Starts tearing off the rocks, the glass. He dug for an hour, 5 hours he dug. His knuckles are bleeding open, his back is cramped up. He dug for 20 hours. Like you guys, fathers one day, dig for your kid forever. And he said, all I could think as I dug for my boy was the promise I always made to him. No matter what happens, always gonna be there for you. 38 hours later, he lifts up a board, and then under that's the face of his son. And he looked down upon his son, and his son looked up to him and said, Papa. And his son turned to 14 kids trapped alive with him, and he said, see, I told you my daddy was coming to get me. I told you that he promised. This is the love of God, your Father. It doesn't matter how far away you think he's been. He's here today. Welcome you home. You guys have been an awesome audience. I love you guys. Have a beautiful life. Thank you guys very much. Thank you guys. Appreciate it. Thank y'all.